I'm Professor Michael Reisner. I'm the director of the Upper Mississippi Studies Center. And I've been here about a year, and you're not going to get to hear me talk much at all today because we have two guest speakers that I want to be the focus. But the idea for the center is for it to be a place where we bring Augustana faculty and students as a resource and help communities tackle some of the challenges they're facing. That's our goal for the center. And and doing that by combining really two approaches is the way I see it. One is taking an interdisciplinary approach to some of these problems. And then second, authentically engaging with the community. So it's the community identifying the projects they need help with. And then us bringing the resources to bear that we have, both faculty and students, to try to help them advance their initiatives down the road. And the reason we have two speakers today, we have Bob Choquette from the University of Oregon Sustainable Cities Initiative, and Jason Maher, who's with the Associated Colleges of the Twin Cities. And the neat thing about University of Oregon's program is it was the inaugural program. So Bob's going to give us the 30,000 foot elevation look at this model for trying to connect existing courses with community identified sustainability projects. And then Jason can hone it down to what it looks like in a liberal arts setting, because the University of Oregon is a gigantic R1 research university, and they have a coalition of 5 liberal arts schools in the Twin Cities. So the one issue to think about is how this might look in scale at a single residential liberal arts school at Augustana. So we'll get both of those perspectives. They're both have about 30-minute presentations, and for those of you that have other things on the agenda, the first hour is going to be primarily their presentations, and then the second hour we've kind of reserved for a question and answer and more of an interactive dialogue. So that's how we're going to play it. If you have questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand and we'll take them as we go, and then we'll have a lot of time for discussion afterwards. So, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob, and then we'll hear from Jason.
Thanks, Michael. So, the title of this, and the reason I was invited, is to talk about strengthening the town-gown connection. And I thought before we talk about strengthening that, I want to talk a little bit about why. What are the challenges, what are the issues we face? So the program I'm going to talk about is called Sustainable City Year Program. We're in our 5th year at the University of Oregon. Jason's going to follow up and talk about their program in a setting that's much closer to what Augustana is facing. So let's start with the challenges we face, right, for the different audiences that are in the room. Because we have students, we have faculty, administrators, we have folks from cities here. We all face challenges. The idea about this is, here's an idea that can help everybody to work together to address those challenges. So one, issues for students. Getting jobs, incredibly tough job market. How do you separate yourselves? How do you make yourself as prepared as you can be to get a job? Because it's a lot tougher now than it might have been a generation ago to find a job coming out of school. That's a student's challenge. You've got colleges and universities. Right? Students now have more options. Students can go to school online. There are for-profit schools. So our colleges and universities have to think about how do we continue to attract bright young minds when there's a lot more options now than there used to be a few years ago. And how do we help students make the connection? You're going to spend 4 years with us here at Augustana, but then how do we help you to connect with a job and that thing we all call the real world, right? As if we're not already part of it. And then our cities, our local governments have challenges as well. These are some of the issues that we face in Oregon, or as you might say, Oregon. But these are the kinds of things that our cities face, and I think a lot of these are universal. So, aging facilities and infrastructure. Cities have got constrained budgets. Right, like everybody else, not enough money to do all the things you've got to do. You get areas of town that are plagued by vacancies or abandoned buildings or brownfields. Cities have got shifting economies and industries as cities transition from some industries, some economies to others. Increased demand for all services. Right? Just because the budget shrink doesn't mean people adjust their needs and their expectations. And one of the things that I've heard from some of the people that I deal with in the cities in Oregon is the quality of job applicants. Students are not coming out of school having done much. Students have just taken classes. They haven't done anything, been out in the real world, been connected. So that can be an issue for some hiring people. So our solution is a very simple idea. It's called a Sustainable City Year Program. We take existing classes with existing faculty, teach them the same way, but we focus on a city. And my job at the University of Oregon is to focus all of our resources on the single city that we work with over the course of a year. We've been doing this for a couple years now. Let me show you some of the numbers from our past partner cities. So Gresham is a suburb of Portland, about 100,000 people. It was our first year, our proof of concept. We took on 16 projects, 21 classes, about 350 students who collectively put in about 50,000 hours of effort. And these are the disciplines they were engaged in: planning, architecture, landscape architecture, public policy, administration. Second year, we've gone to Salem, our state capital. 16 projects, 28 classes, 500 students, about 60,000 hours. And more in disciplines, and we also engage with Portland State University, which has civil engineering, which is not a discipline that we offer in Eugene. On to Springfield, 14 projects, 30 classes, 400 students, about 42,000 hours. And this year we're working with Medford, which is in Southern Oregon, and I'm keeping an eye on 17 projects that are engaged with 31 classes, 500 students who are going to put in about 24,000 hours over the course of the year. So a fairly significant program that engages as many projects as we can, working with a single city. So how do we do this? Here's the yearly schedule. So right now, for the last couple of months, cities are reviewing an RFP, a request for a proposal. So we invite our cities in Oregon to apply to be our partner. So cities have discussions, I follow up, help them move the discussion forward, and then by the end of the month, in about 10 days, they will submit their responses about who would like to work with us. And then we make a selection. We review the proposals, make a selection, and choose the city that we're going to work with. In March and April, we match projects. Because the challenge is, at least in Oregon, cities and our major schools don't talk to each other that much. Cities don't know what schools have to offer. Schools don't necessarily know what city problems exist. So our cities typically give us a list of projects that they'd like us to take on. We look those over, and then we also talk to our faculty and say, what kinds of things would you like to do to engage with our partner that are maybe not on this list? So we have this back and forth of projects that come from the cities, projects that come to our faculty, discussions around which ones we go forward on, and then as we come to the end of our school year, we're on the quarter system like you are here, but we're on a little bit different schedule. We start end of September, we go to mid-June. So a little bit later shift than you have here. And over the summer, we collect all the documents so that when school starts on the last Monday in September, all the classes can hit the ground running. Because 10 weeks goes just like that. So you gotta have all the materials together, and then classes get going, and over the course of 3 consecutive terms, we have projects going on all across the campus. Yes. Projects can take a variety of sizes and scopes. So a project can exist and engage a whole class for 1 term. Another project might span a couple terms. Another project might start in one discipline in the fall and then be picked up by a different discipline in the winter. Other times a class is working on multiple projects. So the challenge is kind of scaling the project to the capacities of the class. And that's the kinds of things that happen over summer into the fall, because there's a lot of discussions that have to happen. We also have a kickoff and a wrap-up. So every fall, we start things off on campus. We invite our city partners to come in. We get our administrators on board. We get the media there. We get students engaged. We want to create a buzz. This all works because we get a lot of publicity, we get a lot of buzz in our communities around the kinds of things that are going on. Cities love this because we're getting word out about all the positive things that are moving forward in their city with the help of the University of Oregon. a real parallel that could happen here is that you get a lot of positive buzz about how Augustana is reaching out and helping whatever city you might choose to work with. And then over the course of the year, projects happen, and then at the end of the school year in June, we go to the partner city and we have another wrap-up event there where we kind of celebrate everything that was done over the year. We have posters, we have publicity about everything that happened. So, part of this is setting expectations. Again, we're dealing with two different bureaucracies that don't necessarily know each other or talk to each other that much. Higher education and local government. So, we have a range of classes that we offer and a range of work that has to be done. So a lot of the work is done around scaling, making sure a project is the kinds of things that students can take on and that can be done over 10 weeks or maybe 20 weeks if it's a larger project. It provides a real forum for engagement between citizens and the private sector. One of the great things that happens is we mobilize students and they go out in cities and they walk around, they knock on doors, they're doing projects. And people get excited about that. There's a real buzz about this visit of all these students coming from Eugene to whatever city we're working with. So this year we're working in Medford. It's about 2.5 hours away, which is a challenge for us. It's a fair distance to travel to engage in projects, but the idea is when our students arrive in Medford, they hit the ground running, people are happy to see them, there's a buzz around city staff, the city manager always comes out and greets them and talks to them about welcome to Medford, and here's what a great town we have. People really feel engaged and enthused about this whole process. And there's good press. Something we started doing this year is we hire a journalism student who basically covers the year for us. And they're writing stories on a regular basis and submitting them to the local paper. A couple of years ago we worked in Salem, our state capital, and Salem's newspaper hired a reporter to cover us. Well, times are getting a little tougher, the newspaper can't do that, but we're feeding the stories to the newspaper. We do all the work, so we're getting positive publicity for the city on their behalf. And every project ends in a report. One of the challenges around this, remember I said existing classes, existing faculty, existing structure, we don't ask faculty to change anything other than maybe change your focus in some cases from a theoretical project to a real project, something engaged in a city. So we've all taken classes or taught classes where you've got every student does their own work. So you've got 15, 20, 30 students, they do their work, they turn it in, and it's a variety of things. Well, if you were on the receiving end of that as a city, and you wanted to look at that and say, okay, I need to move forward in this, but it's really hard to get all these ideas together because there's 30 of them, we hire students after the fact to bring all their work together to make a single report. So it might have been the work of 30 students, but they've been structured and organized and put in a single report for a city. So we hire a student after the fact to make that happen. So the reports are a real key part of making this a success. We also have to talk about expectations because there are a lot on both sides. I do this full time. This is my job to run this program. So on the city side, with our partner, there's somebody who's my equivalent who works about half-time on this. And we both are traffic cops at times because if you think about on the university side, I've got 20 classes, I've got 20 or more faculty, I've got hundreds of students who all have information needs, logistics, coordination, all that happens at the university. On the city, they've got the same kinds of things going on. So they have a single person who handles all the projects, connecting with all the project managers in the city, and the two of us exchange information on a regular basis. So the city project manager spends almost half time on this, and then each project that happens in the city, a couple hours a week. Plus, we have a kickoff and a wrap-up, so there's a fair amount of engagement at both ends. A little bit around course materials. The key to making this work is communications. We've had a couple projects that have been less than successful. It always is because the faculty member and the city partner didn't talk enough. So the key to setting all of this up, the person with my role, and Jason will talk about this when he comes up in a few minutes, the key to making this work is having good communication so expectations are the same at both ends. One of the great things about the students is they get engaged with local constituencies. So they're out talking to social clubs, they're out talking to nonprofits, they're out talking to the city, they're out knocking on doors, whatever is appropriate for the project. But the idea is they're getting out and engaged. And they're making things happen in those communities. Let's talk about, oops, too far here, criteria for partner cities. The way this has to work is there has to be buy-in throughout the whole organization. We can't be working with just a couple of project managers. We have to have buy-in all the way to the top, to the city manager level, the mayor, the city council. Everybody has to be on board because this is a significant commitment on their part and on our part. We don't do makeup work. We do real work. I haven't talked about this, but they pay for this. Cities pay to operate and to be our partner. The cost is about $250,000 to $300,000 a year. We'll talk in a minute about where those dollars go. But cities don't do this just to be nice to the students, to give them something to do. We do this because they have things they need to get done, and they may not have the bandwidth to do them. Or there's some challenges around the project. Or whatever it is, they're engaging with us to help move their agenda forward. So they take this seriously, as we do. So the projects that we do are typically in their work plans. Things that they want to get done, for whatever reason they're not moving forward. We also want to have projects that have a genuine sustainability interest. That's in our title. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on at the University of Oregon is sustainability. But we think about sustainability very broadly. So we think about sustainability as, sure, it's recycling and it's energy reduction, it's all those kinds of things. And people that sort of are more environmentally conscious, on the political spectrum, maybe left of center, they get that. But we occasionally run into folks on the right side of the political spectrum who think that's touchy-feely stuff and the environment, who cares? We can sell it to them on the idea of cost reduction. Lessen the impact on the planet, a good use of fiscal resources, and people can get that. When we started working in Salem, we'll see if you know this one, Ben. When we started working in Salem, the advice that we got is, yeah, we'll work with you, we're engaged in this, but don't use that S word. Okay? We don't want to talk about sustainability. That's not something we're really on board with here at the city level. Just do things and try to avoid that word. By the end, the city council was completely embracing the words and the idea about sustainability because they got it. They saw the impacts we were having and how we could change things by engaging students on real projects in their city. Funding. I talked about funding. It costs about $250,000 to $300,000 to make this work. That covers my salary. I have a graduate student assistant who helps me to move the projects along. I have another student who's hired to do administrative things. I have to hire students to write all the reports. We have to travel to the cities. University has overhead that they charge and all the things that we do. So it's a fairly significant commitment on the city's part. But again, that is the buy-in. Jason will follow up on this. Michael will probably talk about it as well. But we think it's key that whatever model an organization or school adopts, that there be some buy-in. Because we all know if you do something for free or you get a service for free, that's about how much you value it. But if you have to pay, that means it's something that is important to you. So here's the kinds of things that cities get out of this. And I'll talk about what universities get out of this and what students get out of this. So everybody in the audience sees the benefit of what we're trying to do with a model that we have in Oregon that I think would also work here at Augustana. Cities get to leverage existing resources. We help to move projects forward. We have a unique ability to do that because students bring fresh eyes and cutting-edge ideas and theories. One of the challenges about working in city government, or any government, that afflicts some people after a while is they get kind of old and stable and they know how to do things and they do things the same way year after year. But you get a bright 20-something student showing up on your door, or 20 of those bright 20-something students, you have to get engaged, you have to think about things, you have to be prepared because students are wide-eyed, they're enthusiastic, they're impressionable, they're sometimes naive, but they bring ideas, they bring energy, they're able to tie into new ideas and bring those things forward. Let me give you a quick story. So last year I had students looking at an industrial property to think about redeveloping it. One of the uses going on there at that time was laminated beams. So years ago, when you see large beams in buildings, they were cut from a single tree. A huge beam that might be 18 inches by a foot wide, that was from a single tree. Well, we don't have those trees anymore, or they're prohibitively expensive. So now when you see those large beams, they're typically pieces of wood that are laminated together. They're glued, the glue is incredibly strong, and it's just built up by a whole series of pieces of wood. Well, there's a technology happening in Europe where they orient the wood at 90-degree angles. So all the wood's not going in one direction, it's going at 90-degree angles. So the wood is strong in both directions. Students found out about this. It was brand new news to the people that own that factory who were building laminated beams. So here's the wacky thing about this construction process. There are places in Europe that they're building skyscrapers 9, 10, 11 stories tall out of wood. Unbelievable. And that technology is not here in the US yet. But students found out about it, and students identified it and have told the folks that we work for about this, and they're busy investigating and seeing if they can move that forward here. Again, hired a bunch of students, impressionable, out doing research, digging around, found something that it could be incredibly important to the folks that we work with on that single project. So students are incredible resources that you can focus on the issues that you might have in your cities. Students also challenge staff. Here's why. Sometimes staff will say, well, we can't do that. Typically other employees would say, well, okay, boss says we can't do that. That's not a student reaction. Student reaction is, why can't we do that? Well, we just never done it that way. Why can't we do that? Okay, we'll give it a try, or we'll look into it, or whatever. Students don't have that baggage with them. They're just bright and intelligent, and they don't let things like that get in the way. And we expand community conversations. Some other benefits for cities, I'll go through these quickly as I'm watching the time. Provide opportunities to increase employee job satisfaction, the kinds of things that I was just talking about, because employees get engaged with the opportunity to work with students. You can get concrete results on high priority projects, things that cities don't necessarily have the bandwidth to move forward on. And they can move council goals along. The students give cities increased capacity, and they serve as a sounding board. So issues that cities might not want to move forward on because they're risky, they're politically sensitive, they're hot potatoes, let the students do it. Sounds kind of basic, but here's what happens. Cities turn the projects over to students. Two things can happen. It's a success. Isn't that great? Those students did that project and it's a real success. It's a failure. Well, they're students. They don't know how we do things here in Community X, right? Cities have perfect cover because of that. And students helped expand conversations. We help cities to learn about sustainability, how to make cities better places to live. Somebody gave me a definition of sustainability I thought was really classic, and that is, sustainability is helping to make a city the kind of place where your kids would like to come back and live. Maybe they'll go away to college someplace, but you want them to come back to where they grew up because it's such an attractive community. It's the kind of place that people want to be. And we provide cities with ideas that last for years. As I mentioned, we worked with Salem a few years ago. I'm still getting calls about the kinds of things that students proposed several years ago that they're moving forward on. Here's benefits to colleges and universities. For public schools, it's renewal of that social contract. It's a public university or public college that takes state funds that's giving back, showing benefit for those dollars. Not the same issue at a private school like this, but still it's building that connection to our local communities. We're building relationships. It attracts students and faculty. People want to be engaged in this. Once a faculty member works with us on a project, they want to continue working with us. We've had folks that are a little bit hesitant, don't know, never done that before. That's okay. Once we do it once, faculty want to stay engaged. And as I've said earlier, it creates a buzz and energy, both on campus among students and with our faculty and our communities. Here's benefits for faculty. First, the projects are ready-made. Somebody else, not faculty members, is going out and finding the projects. In talking to Michael, I know that there's some faculty here that already do these kinds of things, so they've already got contacts in cities. Other faculty might be kind of hesitant because it can be daunting to go out and find somebody who wants to work with you in a project, and there's lots of cities and lots of departments and phone numbers, and who do I call? It's like, that's a headache. I'll just keep doing what I've been doing. But somebody else will take the lead on finding those projects. So faculty members can just sit back, this project comes to them ready-made. We provide logistical support. So when a faculty member wants to go to the city and visit, I set up transportation. The faculty member wants somebody from the city to come to campus to hear a presentation, I set all that up. So all logistics are done by somebody other than the faculty member, so it's very easy for them to engage. Remember, I said, existing faculty, existing classes taught in existing ways. So everything that challenges those three presumptions, that's my job to fix. And there's a little bit of money that comes to the faculty members to help make this happen. Benefits for students. Students get real-world experience. There's nothing like getting engaged, building community, or building connections off campus. So you don't come out of school and say, well, I got a 3.8 GPA and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but what have you done? Well, did I tell you I've got a 3.8 GPA? Yeah, but what have you done? Projects like this, you can show somebody what you've done. As Chad was saying earlier, separating yourself, going above and beyond, making that case will help students to get jobs. Students also get engaged and exposed to politics. One of the challenges around higher education is, sure, we teach our disciplines, we try to be interdisciplinary, but a lot of times it's hard in the classroom to expose students to the politics that happens about when something tries to move forward, all the roadblocks you hit and the toes you step on. This gives students at least a little glimpse about what the political world looks like when they want to move projects forward, and it's an invaluable learning experience. It gives students a real sense of purpose because they're connected to communities. They have real people that they're working with and lives that they're really impacting. Students pick up real skills, and there's a lot of energy and focus around what's going on. Every term we do a survey after the fact to ask students, what was your experience like? So here's a couple to show you that students really get a lot out of this process. So we asked the students, did the fact that a client was invested in the outcome of your work influence you to put in more, less, or the same amount of effort in this course compared to others? Students put in more effort, 82% of respondents. We also asked students, will you use your work and experience from this course in a job interview, on your resume, or in your portfolio? Yes, 73%. Here's some comments that followed up that question. Our work was well received and we learned a lot in the process. I learned valuable information that I can use, and I can use that to distinguish myself from other applicants and to provide real-life experience. Real-life experience is what employers want to see when they hire college graduates, and this project is currently on my resume due to its real-world implications in the professional setting in which it was completed. Another question. Compared to traditional classes, would you say you put in more, less, or the same amount of effort? More effort, 64%. And finally, looking back at your overall experience in this class, do you think the applied project nature of the class made it a more valuable learning experience, a less valuable learning experience, or made no difference in your learning experience when compared to other classes? More valuable, 84%. So students see the benefit in this. Our cities see the benefit in this. Our faculty see the benefit in this. And as I've talked about this, you might be thinking, well, you know, that's a big university out west, and we're a much smaller liberal arts college. So in a minute when I turn it over to Jason, Jason's going to talk about how it works in a setting very similar to this, so that you can see that this model to transform higher education is very robust. It's scalable. Large schools, medium-sized schools, small schools can all reach out and do a better job of connecting with their local communities. So let me finish with just a couple slides about some of the things that people are saying about our program and that can be, by extension, be saying about other programs and a program at Augustana. So this is from our local newspaper about one city checking on another city's experience working with us. When Springfield officials asked Salem's mayor how much of the students' work proved to be of use, the answer is unequivocal. Unequivocal, every bit of it. We've received multiple awards from different organizations around sustainability in their education programs. We made Forbes magazine, where they said that the program we ran in Salem takes city change to an unprecedented level, unprecedented scale, and finally we made New York Times that called us perhaps the most comprehensive effort by a U.S. university to infuse sustainability into its criteria. Oops, sorry. Sustainability into its curriculum and community outreach. So a radically simple idea that can change and engage higher education. We've been doing this for a couple years, and in April we're going to have our third conference, where we invite schools from around the country to come look at our model and then take it back and incorporate it in their situations. Large schools, small schools, many of the people that attend our conference move forward with their own initiatives that look a lot like ours but are customized to their situation. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason now, who attended our first conference, and they have a similar program running in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area that engages multiple small liberal arts schools. So Jason, it's all yours.
Hi everybody. Just 1 second while I switch over. Show of hands, who saw Chad speak? Very inspiring, wasn't it? Just to see what one person can do. Imagine
Aren't you glad you don't have to
classroom.
follow Chad?
Pardon?
Aren't you glad you don't have to follow Chad?
Yeah, Chad actually pulled this out of the river this morning. He's donated it to the university. So a couple of things quickly. I'm just going to pass around a quick sign-up sheet. If you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, please do. Just your name and your email is plenty. I'll put some bookmarks and some of my business cards over there so you know I'm the real deal. And there are 3 different colors on the bookmarks, so try to collect them all. And I'll leave some of our project reports over there as well that you can look at. I do want to thank Michael Reisner, there you are, for bringing Bob and I here, and also I want to thank Bob, who lives and breathes SCYP, works very hard. He's been a tremendous resource to our program and to me personally, so thank you. Very exciting to see what Augustana's got going on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our program at ACTC called City Labs. These pictures are a little small, but this is a picture of some of our students presenting in Mayor Coleman's office with the city of St. Paul. He's the mayor of St. Paul. We've got some students out in the field, which in our spring term in Minnesota can be a little challenging. We like to get them out of the classroom. And there's a faculty member who beards are very big in higher ed right now. So City Labs is brought to you by ACTC, or and I should say, by the way, this is a shorter version of a presentation I do, so there's going to be a lot of zooming here because I've cut some things, so I hope you took your Dramamine or had a light snack or something. But brought to you by ACTC, the Associated Colleges of the Twin Cities. This is our mission statement, which you could very easily read if you wanted to, but what it really boils down to is this idea, this principle that we can do more together. So how might you know ACTC? Well, ACTC coordinates all of the cross-registration for our member institutions. So if you're a student at one institution, you can cross-register for courses at another institution, even majors and minors. We also manage all the joint purchasing and procurement for our member institutions, so they go together and buy toilet paper and save a lot of money, or they buy software licenses and save even more money. But we also do a lot of unique cross-institutional academic programming. We do an undergraduate research symposium and a film festival. We have foreign language committees, and we even share coursework across majors. But City Labs is really the jewel in the crown of our cross-institutional programming. We have 5 core members. We have been in operation since 1974, so 40 years. I know that because I was born in 1974 and I turned 40 on Wednesday. So So there's still time to get me a little something if you see me around. But our 5 core charter institutions are Augsburg College, Hamlin University, Macalester College, St. Catherine University, and the University of St. Thomas. These are all private liberal arts institutions, small to medium-sized, 3,000 to 5,000 students at each institution. They are all primarily undergraduate. However, we do have some schools with graduate and professional programs, continuing education programs. About 25,000 total students across all the institutions, about 1,800 faculty across them. One thing that I do want to say here is that the number of students hasn't really played so much into the way that we've been placing our projects. Institutions, there's plenty of work to go around. I also want to point out one quick thing, an auxiliary benefit of the program. You saw that number of 25,000 students. We are graduating as a consortium thousands of students a year from these institutions, and we want them to stay in the Twin Cities. These are college-educated folks, they're great resources. We want to introduce them to the region and show them this is a great progressive place, a place where I want to stay and work, maybe start a business, raise a family. What is City Labs? Again, here's our little mission statement, but why read it? Because what it really means is that we can do more together. So our thinking is that urban sustainability is such a large and such a complex and such an important issue that it is not enough for one institution to be doing great work. It's not even enough for 5 institutions, a consortium, to be doing great work. We need to be reaching out into the community, the region, partnering with cities to leverage the maximum amount of resources toward these issues as possible. So how does City Labs do that? Bob covered this very well. Here it is in a nutshell, literally bursting from a nutshell. ACTC's member institutions partner with one city in the Twin Cities metropolitan region for an entire academic year to help them advance their sustainability initiatives. We maintain, like Bob said, a very, I like to say, inclusive definition of sustainability. So that includes social equity, economic availability. We don't even use the term sustainability all that often, it really depends. Placemaking, thriving and resilient communities, all these things, they basically boil down to the same basic piece. So we started with the 2012-13 academic year. We went big. We approached the city of St. Paul, 250,000 residents, it's the capital of the state of Minnesota, and asked them to be our pilot partner. So we started off with them very modestly. We just did 3 projects in 1 semester to start out. It's really blossomed out from there. 4 of our 5 member institutions are located in St. Paul, so we kind of started where our heart is. You'll notice something that we have in common, this big blue strip running through it, that's the Mississippi River. So we're a river city that plays a big part into a lot of the projects that we end up doing. One thing about St. Paul, let me just go back here quickly, because you brought up the city program lead. So the Bob or the me in the city. We found someone great. His name's Wes Saunders Pierce. He's the Water Resources Coordinator for the city of St. Paul. Here's why that's great. Water touches everything. You never knew how much you could divide water until you start working with a city. There's drinking water, there's storm water. They work with watershed districts. It's a great, he's a great interdepartmental position. So he's known all around the city. Not just that, he works with the process folks, the people on the ground. They're going to be your city project leads. He knows them all. He knows what's going on at the ground level. But he's not so far away from the city administration that he doesn't have their ear. So that's an important piece to all this, is finding that person. So over the course of our first 2 years, we're in the middle of our 2nd year now, we've done 18 projects across 20 courses and instructors. It's way more than 200 students, but across all 5 institutions, it's hundreds if not thousands of hours work. But the thing I want to bring your attention to is the diversity of academic disciplines that are represented here. So for us, as a consortium of small to medium-sized private liberal arts institutions, there's been this question: what do the liberal arts, particularly the humanities, particularly, I hate this term, the soft sciences, social sciences, what do they have to contribute to sustainability? You know, it's kind of a slam dunk. You think biology, you think environmental science, it's very easy to draw that line to sustainability. But you see, we've got projects in art, communication studies, English, political science, psychology. The answer is there's a lot of work in this area. I just read an article, I wish I could remember, but someone in the article said that sustainability is the last living liberal art because it's so interdisciplinary. It crosses so many areas. To understand the biophysical world requires science. To conceptualize our role within this requires the humanities, and sustainability is the integration. That's on our website. That's projects and how they match up with the classes. You can go to our website. And I thought rather than going on and on about some concepts, I would just give you some real world examples of some of the projects we've done. A tale of 2 projects. I'm actually going to break from the Dickens reference and make this a tale of 3 projects because there's one I want to tell you about quickly. But here's 2 projects. One of our very first projects in fall 12 was a volunteer park patrol project. And then in 2013, a stormwater awareness one. And then we did a LED lamp transition one just this last fall. So I'll tell you about these. So the way that we really start, and I think you, I don't know if you came up with this phrase, but I love it, this alliterative phrase, of persistent, pesky, or pressing problems. So, no, it's not you, all right. But anyway, I like it, and it resonates. So every one of our projects starts with a real world issue. So in the instance of the volunteer park patrol, there's a significant lack of resources. So when we first started working with St. Paul, we wanted to be strategic, because it's such a big city, about where we're directing our energy. So we looked at those departments that are traditionally under-resourced. So they already have a culture of working with community partners just to help get their work done. So one of the first places we started was Parks and Rec. Significant lack of resources. In St. Paul, it's 172 parks, thousands of acres. It's a zoo, it's an amusement park, it's a conservatory. They had 7.5 full-time employees that patrol it all. It's a serious problem. They'd had some break-ins, they'd had some vandalism, but nothing serious, but the feeling was, hey, something could happen. Stormwater awareness. So the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency issues a stormwater discharge permit to the city of St. Paul. Part of the mandate of that permit is that they do a certain amount of outreach. And in St. Paul, it's spray-painted stencils on stormwater drains that say drains to river, and it's got a fish with an X for an eye because it's dead. They found, the Department of Public Works, a bowling ball, which is funny because I just saw it in Chad's thing, and a television set in a stormwater drain with the stencil painted on it. They nicknamed it, it's Brunswick, they nicknamed the bowling ball, it's like an office mascot, I've met it. But clearly, the designs are not working. All right? Drab, out-of-date designs, they don't convey the message. And they're not visual enough, they don't cross cultures. And I'll tell you about this LED project. There are 37,000 public lamps in St. Paul. 27,000 of those are this old gas lantern style lamp. There is no LED bulb mass-produced that fits those. That's a problem. So what happens next is our city staff wish up some solutions. Why couldn't we create a volunteer park patrol? That is a great idea. It would be a welcoming presence in the park. They could serve as first aid responders. They could be eyes on the ground to notify police. Okay, great. But this was a problem that was born out of lack of resources. So who has the time to do the feasibility study? Who's going to look at regional and national models of volunteer park patrols? Who is going to create a guide for selecting, training, retaining volunteers? Redesign of materials. I love civil engineers. I work with civil engineers all the time. They are not graphic designers. I think that's why the bowling ball ended up in the stormwater drain in the first place. With the LED project, simply not enough time for the city engineers to go to all these vendors, get prototypes, try and build out structures to fit these bulbs into. So what we did was we matched these with existing courses across the curriculum, and I really, really want to stress this because it's the part of the program model that's so important. We don't create any new courses. We develop our faculty to integrate projects seamlessly into existing curriculum. It's really important that students don't show up and feel like, great, I signed up for this class, and now I also have this project to do. The class is the project. It's integrated. So we matched up our volunteer park patrol project with a course called Psychology and Work at the University of St. Thomas. We matched up our stormwater awareness design with 2 graphic design classes at Augsburg and a document design class at Hamlin. Our LED project went to an electrical engineering course at St. Thomas. And what happens next is the students go to work. They do what they do. They conduct surveys. They do data compilation, analysis. They meet with city members. They stay up all night. They drink Mountain Dew. They, what else do students do? They go on field studies. And I want to show you this too. Just to give you an idea, Bob made this great point that when the projects have not gone well, it's because they haven't been in the instructor and the city project lead haven't been in contact. So this is a door hang that our stormwater awareness design class they came up with 6 concepts, overall concepts. And this was one, and this guy's named Pig's Eye. St. Paul used to be called Pig's Eye, if you didn't know that.
I don't know why they changed it.
Pig's Eye needs your help cleaning St. Paul's waterways, okay? So they put this out there. The city project lead, it was really like this client and design firm relationship. The students put this out there. They said, you know what, maybe not so much the pirate, but we love the black on yellow. This is the final door hang. They stuck with the black on yellow. So you create this feedback loop between your instructor, your class, and the city project leads, and you just make sure that you're constantly fulfilling the city's needs. And the results, in fall 2013, they piloted a volunteer park patrol in St. Paul's premier park, Como Park. That is now up and running, and they have plans to expand it system-wide. In fall 2013, these designs went into production. One of the great things is that students did a lot of research. They had been spray painting these stencils on, and then of course you use volatile chemicals to clean the stencils off. They actually found a sustainable material that goes onto the metal part of the stormwater drain. They last 10 to 15 years longer. You can get much more intricate designs. They can be colorful. When the snowplow comes along, it'll scrape them up. That's actually one of the designs there that will go on the stormwater drain. Oh, and I should mention that the LED project, the students came up with 6 prototypes for retrofits for our existing gas lanterns. The city, they just did a presentation for the traffic engineering division of the city of St. Paul. They think that 2 of the prototypes are highly feasible and will probably be moving forward. Had the city gone to a consulting firm and paid a design firm to redo this, I don't know exactly what that would be, but it wouldn't have been what we charged them. Feedback. Almost universal praise from students. We have had students go on. From this project, we now have a student designer that is doing freelance work for the city of St. Paul. We've had another student that's gone on to get a job. They just love that it connects them to a real-world issue, and those numbers that Bob showed, how much more invested in the class they feel. It's just remarkable. After our first semester, I had a student in a class. I was literally walking across campus, and a student ran up to me and said, do you know what the City Labs classes are going to be for spring? And I said, I do. And I told him he registered for 2 of them. So there's some student excitement around this. In terms of the city project lead, now this is the city staff member that has dreamed up this project and is working with the faculty member in the class. It's a good investment that aims to solve issues or problems that you might have time to figure out. Students are good to work with. They bring a positive attitude. I want to say one thing about this. If you, I think there are people from the cities here. If you want to bring innovation to a problem, set 40, 19 to 22-year-olds loose on it. Okay? Not every idea is going to be gold, but they let a lot of air into the room. That's what we hear again and again from our city staff. This is pretty cool too. So we just had a project where we did database design on traffic signals. So the traffic signals in St. Paul come from every era, and they all have different kinds of bulbs. And what happens is somebody calls and says, the light at Rice and Larpenter's out. Okay, they look in the database, what they think is the correct database, and they say, okay, this is the right bulb. They drive all the way out there. Oh, but it's the wrong bulb. I got to drive all the way back, or get the right ladder, or whatever it is. So we had a project where we were trying to develop a very holistic database to do this stuff. St. Paul had tried to do it on their own. And when the city project lead said to the students, here's a list of people that work for St. Paul that touch this information. If you could maybe get 1/3 of these people to talk to you, it'd be great. And they had a 100% response rate. This is totally anecdotal. I have nothing to support this. I think that the difference was when St. Paul did it, it was your boss or supervisor coming to you and saying, let's sit down and talk about your business practices. And a student coming to them and saying, I'm doing research on a project. Would you be willing to speak to me about this? And they do. So that's just one of those sort of shadow or auxiliary benefits with this program model that you don't think about. We work a lot with other nonprofits, Friends of the Mississippi River, watershed districts aren't necessarily nonprofit, but we work with them, folks in the private sector. This was a limnologist, which in case you didn't know is a freshwater scientist. I didn't know that until I met one. But I think it's an awesome program. Hopefully I can come speak again. When I was in college, I loved having guest speakers, and they bring people in. It's really great. It's not hyperbole to say that, the way, nebulae kick out stars, this program model kicks out relationships and connections. It really is amazing the number of people that this draws to it. So in terms of benefits, students get professional experience tackling a real-world issue. The city's provided with innovative solutions to nagging issues. The community is rewarded with a more sustainable and livable future. I would add to this from the faculty side that the faculty, we did a project where the instructor had been teaching conservation biology. Okay, maybe that's what you teach as a faculty member, but your interest, your passion is in emerald ash borer. Here's a chance for you to work in, that is not your passion, is emerald ash borer. There are people whose passion is emerald ash borer. And this is an opportunity for faculty to spend a semester with their students working on something they feel very passionate about. And that's going to make an impact in the real world. They're going to see these solutions live out. Students are going to be able to walk around, and when these engineering students go into Honeywell or 3M or someplace, hopefully in the Twin Cities, to get a job, they'll say, well, what have you done? And they said, you ever walk past the street lamp in St. Paul? That's me. I designed that. Obviously, City Labs is one of a number of programs that have been developed off of the Sustainable City Year program model. We are a member of this developing national network of programs like SCYP. I've heard the term scale down. I prefer to say that we've adapted or translated the program model to our context. Okay? One of the interesting things here that you see, a lot of these institutions, this is changing in large part thanks to the work of Bob and Nico and Mark at SCI, but a lot of these are large land grant, state-run research institutions, okay? So ACTC is kind of on the vanguard of these types of programs related to private liberal arts institutions. I assume that Augustana will also be on the vanguard, an SCY pioneer, if you will, to bring this program model to this area. One of the great things about this national network is that ACTC is now going on and helping other schools like us develop this program. Augustana will go on and help other institutions like Augustana develop this program. There will be a large national network of these types of programs. It's easy to think that there's nothing cutting edge in higher education. You just sort of fill out the application, and then you get accepted or you don't, and then when you do, you go there and someone that looks like me stands in front of you. And this is cutting edge. This is actually really new stuff. It's a shift from short-term projects to long-term partnerships. The expertise is everywhere. Learning's coming from every direction. The city project lead is gaining the expertise of expert faculty. All right? They're getting that input. Students, like Bob said, throwing out these ideas. You know, they're not all gold, but maybe one or two is really something we hadn't thought of or heard about before. You're bringing in people from nonprofits, community members. We've had students that have presented to residential tree advisory committees, the Sustainable St. Paul Task Force, neighborhood revitalization groups, planning commissions, really getting the residents involved and excited. It's a net positive for all the contributors. It's literally one of those few win-win-win type programs. It builds on the best that the liberal arts has to offer. Critical thinking, research, analysis, interdisciplinary activity, reaching across dividing lines. It could be a potential recruiting and retention tool. If there's anybody from admissions. Our institutions use it, I should say. Finally, you can follow City Labs on Twitter. If anybody's live tweeting this right now, you get a picture of me like that. You can also like ACTC on Facebook. This is our website. I should let you know that we've just built out a new website. So that's the old website, but if you go out there, there'll be links to the new one. We have a soft launch next week. So, and if you'd like, you can reach me. I will leave some of my business cards here. Some of our final project reports. That's all of it. Thank you so much for your time.